Hello guys, waiting for everybody to go online. Hope you're all well. Yes, I need a haircut. That lockdown is not doing real well. I'm so pleased today. We're having Coach Gianluca Carbone. We met actually at the Australian Open. Legendary coach, really ahead of his time, and regarding the way and his method that he trains his athletes. We're going to be chatting about his, besides the Kalispera Grigorimu, for his method, the actual way of being your own software. Gianluca is a personal trainer. He was a national tennis player. He's trained so many professional tennis players. And what I'm looking forward to see is what I was amazed with his methodology, his analysis. And actually what we want to be really interested into is how he actually approaches tennis overall. He just went online. So looking forward to chatting with him.
Hello,
Buonasera, amico mio.
Πώς είσαι?
Πολύ καλά. Sono contento di vederti in attesa di nostra conversazione.
Okay, me too. I'm fine. You?
All good, all good. Nice to see you.
Okay, me too.
I was just saying
we
that I
can
was
start.
really amazed by the way you look at the sport, not only as a sport, but from the eyes of the player.
Yeah, sure.
And because you were a player and because of your studies, you've done so many things. What I want to go straight to, because I was amazed when I saw that in person in Australia, was your approach.
Yeah, my approach, we can say that is an holistic approach. I try to reach as much information as possible about the player, so that I can try to help you in every field, in every topic, then at 360 degrees. Because, you know, tennis is so complicated, so tough that more information you have, much information you have, and more are the possibilities to improve the performance. The method, I think that is very important for not leaving what happens to the destiny. And also, if there are many times that the destiny, if you are lucky, the destiny help you, and then also with a wrong methodology, maybe that you have success, because you know, the champions, the pro players have so great skills that it happens that many times without the best solution, they try a personal solution, and they reach the goal. Yes.
So the point you said is you collect, like, you see a player, like, for example, and you analyze certain things, as you said, because you collect, as you said, 360 data.
Yeah.
How does I saw your analysis when we spent time in Australia with Lorenzo Giustino, and what's the match analysis? Because a lot of people are here. You know, what is that?
Yeah, the first approach that usually I do. Do you listen?
Yeah. Loud and clear. Yeah.
Was a problem of a connection? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah. The first approach that usually I do about a player is a match analysis. I think that the tennis court is the first place where reaching informations. There are different softwares, different approaches to the video analysis. For example, there is one kind of software that give us percentage statistics about the tactics, then numbers that concern, for example, the number of double faults, the winner points, the unforced mistakes, and another kind of match analysis that is developed in terms of technical analysis. What is the difference between them?
That was my question.
Yes, yeah. in the first case, you can analyze every video you have about the player, and then matches video that he played in some tournament, for example. But that kind of softwares cannot give you specific informations about, for example, speed, spin, trajectories of the balls. In this case, you need of the second software. The second software can give you more details, more informations, but to use the second software, you need of a camera system that are organized or on a tennis club or on a private court, but you cannot use this kind of system in a tournament. The best will be a combination of both softwares, but a combination of both softwares there is only in a case, in the system used from television. Oh. Then, yes, the system that television used to
like the cat eye, as you said, or
yeah. For example, you know, the Hawkeye, the system of the Hawkeye, the system of recording the matches that the television has, like ITP television, for example, can combine both softwares, but is not sold, is not available for coaches, except the information that they give you in the television during the match, for example, you know.
Can that help you, though, with the psychology of the player? If the spin is really delayed, or the movement of the arm is, like, I think it has a percentage, right? But then you come in with this.
Yeah. Sure. The human eye, the human analysis from the coach is that the third part, the third way to analyze the match. It is very, very important, because when you read, for example, when you see unforced mistakes, maybe that the unforced mistakes come from wind, from a moment of pressure, from a lost point before, or a specific or a particular moment of the match. Then you cannot analyze without the human interpretation all the mistakes of a player. And the human interpretation is very, very important. Also because in my case, I try to reach this knowing. I search a common point, the common point that there are in the mistakes of a match. For example, if a player, if I see that a player fail in after a lateral transition, playing a slice backhand against a slice backhand of the opponent, and every time the mistake happens in the same situation, I highlight that kind of situation. I try to study that situation, and then I try to understand if there is no good stains or a problem in the grip in that specific case, or something that in terms of a not adapted technique.
Like, you mean the purpose of actually creating that muscle memory for that movement?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how can you correct that?
After this full analysis, as I said, that study the statistics, the video analysis, and my human interpretation, I go in a second part of my method, a full postural check to understand why the player behavior is that in that specific moment. Maybe that he is not able to solve the solution, or there are postural problems that influence the player in that specific case. And then what I mean for full postural checkup. This is your job too, no? Then yes. For full postural checkup, I mean that first I need the collaboration of experts of this field, of these topics. It's logical. I collaborate with the osteopath, with the physio, with doctor that are a specialization about the postural topics. And in few words, in easy words, the postural checkup analyze three aspects of our body: eyes, and then vision, deglutition or occlusion, then all the system of the tongue, of our mouth, and for third, proprioception, then feet.
Really important.
So eyes, occlusion, and feet. Usually the most important from data that we have are the vision, the eyes.
Huge.
Our posture change in consequence of our vision. There are different problems that decides our way to move. For example, problems of CI, convergence insufficiency, problems of exophoria, then phoria, and problems of limited peripheral vision. The common point to these problems are coordination problems, and are negative influences in the occlusion of our mouth, in the deglutition. You can imagine that a tongue that doesn't work well move 20, 30 muscles more what you need.
Which makes sense.
What you need.
You've got your neck, you've got your core as a gyroscope.
And the neck is very, very important in the total movement of the tennis player. About occlusion, yes, the tongue is very, very important. The teeth, the same, but always the first checkup that concerns the vision. And in the last concern the feet, the proprioception. You can observe many times that players has no good coordination in the proprioception, and but you cannot improve working on footwork if your vision is not corrected, because to coordinate well the distances, the space around you, you need to have a good balanced vision, because the lazy eye, that is the eye that usually suffer of exophoria or CI, doesn't follow the dominant eye. and it's there that born the asymmetric movements of our body.
Which makes great sense, because like in clinic, these are the tests we use to see if there's any neurological problem, and also how we need to strengthen because we're gonna either have a cerebellar problem, which is linked with proprioception as well. And also we check, as you said, with the lazy eye, because if you're waiting for your head to go, you're too slow, but your eye is like so fast. So imagine if the eye to ball coordination or the eye to core coordination is really slow, you're done.
Imagine in the volley, for example. In the volley, you have no time. The play is very, very fast. If there is a very big difference of speed between turn your neck and move your eyes.
Yeah.
There is a big word of difference between them.
So true.
So, and in the first and the second step of analysis, then match analysis and full postural checkup help me to study and to analyze, to understand what is the biomechanical model of my player. What I mean about a biomechanical model. In few words, the tennis shots are simply a combination of springs. The springs, imagine the springs, the torsion energy that come from the springs are like the energy that comes in physics biomechanical terms, the sum, the combination of force momentum. The force momentum are the acceleration that is created from our joints.
Yeah.
A forehand, a backhand are the combination of the force momentum of our ankle, our hips, our shoulders, our forearm on the arm, and at the last, our neck, our head, that is very, very heavy and can influence in a consistent way the balance between these all these force momentum. Yeah. The biggest force momentum is our body weight. Then you can do a perfect shot in balance, in perfect synchronization of all force momentum, but if your body weight lose the balance a little bit, for a little bit I mean millimeters, 2-3 millimeters. It means 50, 100 kilos that influence the sum of the other momentums in the direction of our body weight. Then imagine when you run in a transition, forward, backward, lateral
change of direction, which is also...
Yes, your body weight is running in that direction. You need to stop your body weight. Otherwise, you can play perfectly, but the ball take the direction of the combination of your body weight direction and the direction that you give to the ball with your racket. That is really less from the momentum, the force momentum of your body weight. Then the biomechanical model is very important, but to understand why you move in that way, why your hip turn right, your right hip turn more than your left hip because it's your dominant hip, or your right eye turn more your head in a direction than the lazy eye. In this way you can understand why your forehand is better or your backhand. You know, it's the sum of this momentum, of the force momentum, and the interpretation why this happens come from a postural checkup.
And that's a great point, because we live in an era that people like to start saying buzzwords like posture doesn't play a role, you know, it's not that important. And I said it's the same thing as, you know, when you start, you know, creating a building, somebody like an engineer.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter. What do we need? Plans. If posture doesn't matter, then biomechanics doesn't matter. Then just build whatever you want. But we've seen it over and over again that at some, you have more experience in the tennis world. I've been like, because of my brother, I started, and then the last 5 years that I've been training tennis athletes or doing rehab, the injuries are going higher and higher. And you start, even though we see, and correct me if I'm wrong, back in the days, like even 5 years ago, the percentage of a good serve, the first serve, was like 60%, and now it's 90%. But you come now and see a lot of tennis players on one side like this, and everybody's starting to have hip problem, shoulder problems. So I'm so happy that you're making this point, because it's seriously really, really, really important for all the things you just mentioned.
An example about the serve that you say is that many players has the same problem in the serve for two reasons. The first reason, that is very, very common to many players, is they miss a motor pattern, a movement pattern that is created in the first 5 years of life. That is the pattern to throw a ball with your dominant hand starting behind your head. Imagine through a stone in a lake, you know? There is a technique for this kind of toss, throwing in a proper way a stone in a lake. The wrist has to do a intra-rotation. Your elbow has to go up on the line of your shoulders, and only in that case you can add all the force momentum in the proper way, with the wrist that rotate in the proper moment, the forearm do a supination and then a pronation, and that all the technique of the toss. If you don't make in the proper way that kind of this toss, you cannot learn to serve. And then, as many players do, they try to hit the ball going with the arm outside and not over the head. And there is an overload on the impingement, then on your shoulder, on the biceps cape, long cape, because there is a force momentum that is outside your body and not close your head.
And it's so important, the pulse too, right? Because it's all about, you start from a really relaxed position to a full extension, full power, and then relax again to go into your
yeah.
And that's where the hips and the core play, and breathing plays a huge role.
Sure. They put pressure on the joint for long time, when in a proper movement you need to put contraction just only in the moment that you hit the ball.
So important.
And if you do this overload for many years, the risk of injury is logical, no?
That's why we stay in business.
Risk, yeah. Yes. Sure. So
we have the biomechanical model study, as you said.
Yeah.
So we started with the software, as you said, which is the two different softwares. Yes. The experience you've got, and the experience you've got, all the experience you've got for all those years. Then we've got the biomechanical, we've got the postural check, as you said. Then we've got the biomechanical model study that you actually take all this data in and trying to interpret whatever you're getting.
Yeah.
What's next?
Next is to complete this analysis, rich informations about the personal life of the player. Then psychological influences from the family and from the girlfriend. Are these family and girlfriend are two caterpillars, you know, caterpillars. Can help you, can push you in the right direction, or can stop your career. Then the ambient of your of the family, the value of the ambient that is around you is very, very important. I always remember a quote of Luis Bruguera that taught me, remember that you have a todo. The player is a todo. A todo, it means that you have to manage a person, not a tennis player. A person with human feelings, with value, with emotions, and the goal before improving the performance is the main goal is to help the player to reach the concept that in the old Greek philosophy was called kalokagatia.
Okay.
The player has to become kalos, kaiagatos. Beautiful in the body, then strong, fit, but in the same time beautiful inside. Kalos kaiagatos.
Really important.
Yes, a person of a value, no, you know, and then family and that all the ambient around the player is very, 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 very important, and nutrition too. You know, you are expert in nutrition, and you know how is important how much is important the supplements, how integrate. The performance with the nutrition, and all the moment of the recovery, and then the sleep. There are many players that has problem about the sleep. The sleep is not easy to analyze.
The jet lags.
Yeah, with a jet lag too is a problem more. Yeah, and yes, sleep, recovery, and nutrition, and family and girlfriend are other parts that I try to put in this full analysis to start the schedule of my training of the practice of the player.
Also, do you find that we've got, like, let's say 6 things that we said, right? And you see that player, you know, physically he's really good, nutritionally he's really good, but there's something missing. And that's why when we start about the software cannot see if, like, because statistics are okay. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing as I say sometimes for blood tests.
Yeah.
Like, they started because we got data from ill people and we just accumulated those numbers, but it doesn't mean everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Same thing as you said now with the player. How important it is, as you said, how many players have you seen that they lost a lot of matches because of a girlfriend, because of situations that they weren't kalos?
Yeah.
Because it's a different sport, because it's a power of one. And I saw that interesting. I don't know if you saw what Kyrgios said about, I don't want to coach because I think I hit my that's where I am and I'm happy. But how important it is to have an experienced coach that can actually guide you. And I'm talking about the psychology because I know you invest a lot in that.
Yeah. This field of the psychology is connected with the communication. The communication with the player is very, very important to solve many problems of this typology. Every player is different. Then you can study all the psychology of this world, but the most important thing is to understand what is the behavior of the player and how the behavior of the player changes in any different situation. This is very complicated because if the player has to compete against another player that he consider very, very strong, also if never they played before, is important no, that you help him, that you communicate with him in a way. But it's totally different the situation when the player already won different times with a player, because, for example, he has not the proper anxiety that activate him in that situation, and is a big risk of failure if is not consider, if he doesn't consider the opponent, only because he won different times, many times before, no?
And we've seen that many times. We've seen this, and then
yeah, I always say that the key in this case is the management of cortisol. The cortisol decides the muscle glycogen.
Yeah.
Before the match. Not much cortisol, but not low level of cortisol. You need to manage the cortisol with the communication, with your body language, with a general management of the player before the match, so that he arrives with the proper activation.
That's so important. And we see that generally with either muscle activation or the psychological activation, because as you said before, there can be people that you yell at them and they're fine, and there are other people that you yell at them and their cortisol goes through the roof. So it's, as you said, it's not one size fits all, and that's where your experience comes in, and you can manage that.
Yeah.
Before you talked about footwork.
Yes.
Like you talk about the technique. What is your main focus? Is it like efficacy?
In my method, the first one of the first test assessment that I do about footwork concern the ladder training. With the ladder training, I can check all the coordination skills. On first, I analyze the dissociation skills that many coaches confuse a little bit the dissociation with the differentiation, are different coordination skills. The dissociation skill is the ability to move different districts of the body in an independent way. A common mistake, and a usual mistake that many players have, if you try to analyze 8 children on 10, when they start to hit the ball with the forehand, they do a kind of hug with all the body.
Yeah.
They hit the ball and they do a hug. They don't dissociate the left arm. They don't put outside the left arm. But this happens because the normal pattern that we do every day is a hug. There are no situations in the daily life, if you take a glass or a dish, that you move the other arm in the other direction. Imagine. Tennis needs this kind of dissociation coordination that is not natural in the human habits. Then this is an example that regarding the arm, but is the same for your feet.
Yeah.
When you move on the ladder, on the training ladder, you can check in a player, for example, if he run not in a symmetric way, but he turn his body or at right or at left, and in that case you can check what is the dominant foot, the dominant foot. And there are many situations on the court that are in a negative way influenced from this kind of pattern, from this kind of dominance. And then studying the dissociation, studying the differentiation. The differentiation is the skill to control the speed of the transition, and on the training ladder you can do it because you have the same spaces that you can manage in a different way. For example, jumping two poles of the ladder, or three, or doing 1, 3, 1, 2, and then differentiate the speed in the transition. You can check the same thing. For example, if the player can move in the same way one foot and the other. There are many tests, many evaluations that we can do with in this way, with this method, to understand what the player miss in a symmetric technique of transitions on the court.
And is that a way that you can actually create efficiency and a more ergonomic movement? Because it makes sense if you can use both extremities in the same way. You're not going to be using more energy and more, difficult movements, right?
Sure. You can block. You can create block in your hip. And another example that I can do it about this topic is that if you analyze many tennis players, everybody in two kind of stretch, the hurdler stretch and the hip stretch. The hurdler is on the ground, and the hip stretch is when you put one ankle crossing on your knee, sit down. You can observe that one psoas is shorter than the other one, and this creates a postural problem. Your back muscle, your hamstring, is different between a dominant leg and a dominant leg, and in this case, these problems of no symmetric muscles doesn't help you to move with a flow concept.
And imagine a match
what you yes the
like
ergonomic that you said.
for 2-3 hour match. Imagine
Yes.
doing this wrong pattern all the time.
Yeah.
Is not going to end up in a good flow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where injuries. We cannot say we can. You can actually say that we can prevent it, not prevent it, but say if we can prevent injury in a way, or we can see.
Sure.
But it's 100% sure that ergonomically, if the muscle is compensating for the other side, something's going to go bad.
Sure. And yes.
And then the other, which is really interesting, because I saw it on your webpage, and it's something I really enjoy too, is the visual training. What are the main goals for the visual training from your point of view?
Yeah, the main goal in visual training is to improve the CI, the convergence in sufficiency, and because the lazy eye create a lot of problems in the coordination. Is one of the most important things. It's sufficient to cover one eye, and you can discover how change all your automatic movements. How changes your automatic movements. There are different studies in all the most important universities in the world about visual training that in this paper they published the not immediate influence of visual training, not direct improvement coming from visual training, but a secondary improvement.
In which way?
Yeah, in this way, if you train a player using chromatic discrimination, monocular training, you break the automatism. Breaking the automatism, you open a door. You open a door to help him to reach new improvements, because you create a kind of confusion in his nervous system.
Yes.
Closing one eye, change all the coordination, and then there you can work. Maybe your vision does improve, but you can help you can help him to feel new improvements, new movements, new technique, new proprioception.
Yeah, which makes sense. If you take the visual out, you need to get the auditory in and the trochlear walking better, which is nerve. And it's really important what you're saying, because we've seen a lot of like an amazing book by Deutsch that was saying the brain that changes itself. And he was saying that if you take out the visual many times, you're creating an impulse for the proprioceptors to strengthen, because that's where they're based. If you take the visual out, that's what happens. So imagine the effect it would have in a tennis player with either a lazy eye or with no coordination, or with bad coordination.
Yeah.
So you add all this and you start structuring a tennis player.
Yes, sure.
What are the difficulties you've been seeing with the new generation?
The difficulties are not only about the new generations, but also about all the players that have not the attitude to change. I think to be very lucky to work with kind of players like Lorenzo Giustino, that you know,
Yeah. That's it.
And you collaborate with us. I think that we are very, very lucky because Lorenzo, for example, is a player that is curious, that want to change, want to try new improvements,
Works pretty hard.
but is not common between pro players to change what they know to do. Most pro players think to improve something without changing many things, because they are afraid to break that balance that help them to reach that level. It's logical that depends from the coach, from the team. If you trust the team, you can do it. Otherwise, it's a big risk. About the new generation, I think that depends from the country where they come. There are countries where talent with new generation with big talent are helped more than others. For example, in France. In France, they put a lot of attention to to a good coordination basis from the players. In Spain, pay a big attention to the players that has a good behavior, power will, and that has a big attitude to the hard work, you know. And then the new generation, I think that it needs to divide, to differentiate between the level of talent, the country of provenience, to understand better what is the different attitudes.
And I had the pleasure of working in, because you called before, you talked about one of my favorite coaches, because Louis Bruguera he's a legend in the coaching, and even though things are actually in a way are changing, the basic principles are basic principles. As I always say, whatever science we bring in, whatever we do, if you manage the basics, that's really important. And he always said about being consistent. I remember being consistent and always thinking your match before you get into the court, like keeping it in mind. And I've done a lot of work with actually visualization, and that's a question I wanted to ask you, if something you use is like, you finish your match or you're going in, it's like a form of meditation. It's like, have you seen yourself playing? Like, do you take a tape to see yourself? Have you thought about your serve? Have you done this? Is it something, because I forget, like with some of my players, I'm like, this is your match. Look at yourself. What do you see? Is it something you do? Is it something you believe in?
Yeah, after the moment after the match is a very very critical moment. It's a very critical moment. I remember another quote of Luis Bruguera that always he told me: remember, after a match, wait 30 minutes, half an hour. And then you can start. What do you want? But wait half an hour, because in that half an hour can happen everything.
Mamma mia! Yeah.
Yes, especially if the player lost the match. No. Yeah. After a match, the main focus is about in our situation. I speak about the relationship that of job that there is between me and Lorenzo. After the match, the main focus is about technical problems. This is the first comments that we do. We try to understand what happens, but in terms of negative or positive influences of the outdoor of the air condition around the match. For example, the kind of balls, the wind, humidity, temperature.
Right.
What happened of negative of positive in terms of influences on his usual technique. Maybe that he lose or he win, but usually he tells me I didn't feel well this shot. I didn't feel this, and then we try to understand why. What are the reasons why it happened? And this is not easy because you have to understand the player first. What are the things that disturb him, no?
In the future, you can clear them up or
yes,
make them less.
Yes. In the future is easier because after many matches, you understand what are the famous common points, you know, that I told you before in the video analysis. But the common points are the same points that can create problems to the player in a match. And we analyze. Our focus is on the technique on first, and later we analyze eventual problems of physical performance. Maybe if there is jet lag or temperature is very hot, or some tactical specific strategy of the player that created us problems. But as a first analysis, we prefer to focus on our player, on my player, not about others. We analyze the performance because
really
there are, you know.
Because we had one of the legendary tennis players retire a few days ago, Fernando Luna.
Yes, I know. Yeah, very well.
And I spent, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, he was playing amazing slice, the best slice I've ever seen in my life, and he didn't do one like even then. The thing I was looking at was, of course, his body, his posture, and then the aspect of how he was looking at the court every time court. It was looking like a chess play. And I said, when he finished, we sat down for a couple of hours, and I was like, you didn't do one unforced error. And he's like, that's the pedigree of tennis. Why, like, you need to make the less unforced errors, and I think he has a record for that. And you see so many matches lost because of I don't know, it's will, is it stress? I don't know what it is. And I hate, one thing that makes me really angry with my players is that. What's your opinion on forced errors, and how can you correct, like, trying to make them less?
About what you told me now, a keyword that regard all the Bruguera system, and then Fernando Luna, that is one of his player, is the consistency, no? The concept of consistency.
Like now, Alberto Lopez saying, hey, hola, Alberto. He's saying he has a record at an ATP match with just one unforced error.
Unforced error. Yeah. You know, the tennis is changed is changed a lot in the last 20 years. There was a period in about the tennis on clay court where the unforced mistakes were very important. The value of the mistakes in the percentage of points. I think that today the tennis is very fast, and when you play on hard court, is noisy to think and to organize your performance with a focus only a focus about the unforced mistakes. Is impossible because the most important shots today are return and serve. The media of the rallies is around 3, 4. Then speaking about unforced mistakes, if you play against Isner or Karlovic or Opelka, that are incredible players, but with where you cannot play with them. In that situations, the focus, I think, that has to be only about return and serve. On the clay court game, especially in the challenger competitions, in the challenger tournaments, is in very slow conditions.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if there is a humidity, if the ball are very heavy, the unforced mistakes are more important in that situations, and then can change a little bit the balance of the match. But the importance of the consistency concept that Fernando or Luis Bruguera told us and taught us, and I agree, I completely agree, is that the base of learning tennis has to consider the importance to do 0 mistakes. You cannot build a tennis player, a pro player, except incredible talents, but except that rare situations, okay? In normal situations, good player with a good talent. I agree with I totally agree with Fernando Luna and Luis Bruguera that the base is the consistency.
Yeah.
On first, you have to learn playing a match with 0 mistakes. Okay.
We have
and
1 minute.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can improve return, serve, all the other shots.
It was amazing having you. I learned so much, and every time we chat, I really enjoy it. And where we can find you at your webpage? If they put Gianluca Carbone on Google, and I know I've posted now your Instagram. Hopefully, we're going to start having tournaments soon, and I'm looking forward to see you again for a good espresso.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for this wonderful speech, and I hope that we repeat in the next future. I will invite you in on my social channel, so I can do an interview to you.